Okay, guys, it is time for Girl Time Chit Chat. It's my favorite stuff we do on Wednesdays. I know last week we did the Laura Geller thing, and you guys were like, that's not a chit chat. That was, a sell. I know. I was just so excited about getting, you guys those discounts and everything. And they go on. I mean, they're available all the time. But I'm not going to talk about that. Okay, so here's what's going on with me. It's my new thing. It's about my 6th, 7th, and 8th grade English teacher, Sister Kathleen, JFK, and Lee Harvey Oswald. Here's how they all come together. All right, so when I was in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I went to St. Teresa's School in New Cumberland, and we had a new teacher, a nun, Sister Kathleen. She came from OLBS, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. And she was new, right? We were like, oh, okay, this will be fun. And anyway, she seemed pretty nice. She's a Sister of Mercy, but then on her first day, we'll show you how that didn't quite work out. And you'll see how this all ties into JFK and what's going on with me right now and why I need your opinion. Really weird. So that was back in like 1977 or 76. I don't even know. Anyway, she was, one thing, very beautiful. And the Sisters of Mercy didn't wear a full habit. They just wore like a navy dress, navy colored dress, like a jumper. Anyway, but the biggest thing I remember about her blazing blue eyes. They were like a husky's eyes. Anyway, her first day there, and this is how I was like, ugh. She comes in front of our class, and she taught English. And just so you know, like to get into our high school, there's Trinity High School, you had to take exams to see where they place you, right, in math and reading and English and all that. And just to tell you how good of a teacher she was in English, our entire class got into honors English in high school in the placement testing because we could conjugate a sentence and we know our grammar and everything like nobody's tomorrow. This woman taught us like crazy. It was so good. Also, my SATs, I placed really high in those categories. Not much else, but those, yes. Anyway, I digress. So her first day there, she's in front of our class and she says, we're going to go through each one of you. And when it's your turn, you're going to stand up and tell me something good about yourself or that you can do. And the first girl up was probably the sweetest girl in our class, Patty Kilmore. And she was the nicest, the sweetest, painfully shy, and would blush just at the mention of anything. She was so dear. The entire class loved her. And she was first up. And she had a little story like The Sound of Music. Her mother died when she was really young, left the husband with like 7 or 8 kids. And our first grade teacher, Sister Maureen Francis, ended up marrying Patty's dad to help raise the kids, right? You know the rest of the story. So anyway, Patty Kilmore is the first one up. So Sister Kathleen says, stand up, Patty. Tell me something good about yourself or something that you're good at. And of course, Patty, being so humble and shy and sweet, was like, I don't know. This Sister Kathleen laid into her. And I was like, oh my God, to the point where Patty was crying. Guess who's up next? Me. So I jump up out of my seat and I say, well, I'm a really good softball player. I'm captain of the cheerleaders. And she goes, sit down. So as the class learned what happened to Patty Kilmore, just say something nice about yourself. Where does this lead us? She was only that way for the first day, and I think it was to command some respect from us and authority, and she got it. But anyway, here's how she ties into JFK and why I'm obsessed with John Kennedy. She was a fanatic about him and the presidency. So for 3 days straight, November 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, all we didn't learn any English, but we learned everything about JFK, the Dealey Plaza, Lee Harvey Oswald, Jack Ruby. I mean, every year, like clockwork, the 21st, the 22nd, the 23rd, the day before, the day of, the day after. So in effect, what has happened to me is I've remained completely obsessed with that. So I have been downloading all these books on my Kindle and researching stuff on YouTube. And there's so much evidence out there that I'm kind of feeling guilty about hating Lee Harvey Oswald all these years, because I don't think he did it. I've been looking at the films, what's that called? The Rapinski or Rapedri film or whatever. I've been looking at the photos that people took. I've been looking at the Warren Commission. I've been looking at, this is going to gross you out, the autopsy photos and the x-rays of the autopsy photos. And there's no way that there was a magic bullet. There is no way that there was only one shooter. And the final shot, I watched it over and over and over again. It does not come from the back. It comes from the front side, the grassy knoll. And then I'm like, but who and why cover it up? So as I go into more and more research on it, it's coming up that it's the CIA. And as I did more, who did it, who planned it. And as I do more digging, as it turns out, Bobby Kennedy and John Kennedy did not trust our government. Go figure. At this point, who does, right? But I have to get this off my screen. The CIA at that point, back in the early 60s, was running amok and doing all kinds of stuff, anything they want to do. There's Cuba, the Russians. They had planned assassinations of other world leaders without the approval of the executive branch. But I was talking to Bubby, and he said, well, they do that now. They don't need that approval. They kind of run themselves. But apparently, at the time, they were running amok. And J. Edgar Hoover and Kennedy didn't get along. But Lyndon Johnson and Hoover kind of did. And definitely Bobby Kennedy and Hoover did not get along. So it wasn't so much didn't get along. They were on opposite ends. And the books that I'm reading right now that I've downloaded from Kindle, they were published in 2017, because there's always been a bunch of like conspiracy theories and stuff like that. But the books, and new stuff is going to be coming out, but the books I've been reading, get my information on, so in 2017, and I'm not going by hearsay. I'm looking at genuine FBI documents, CIA documents, the committee, the Sessions Committee of Assassinations that was brought together. I mean, real concrete that you can open up and you can see the heading, who it's from, what date, blah, 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 who it's to, what it's about. And as it turns out, I found in those papers that Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Ruby were both in the CIA. They were in it. It shows it. Now, the CIA denies it, which is what they're supposed to do. But then there's actual paperwork that shows that they were. You know, and then Cuba and Russia come into it. The mob come into it because Bobby Kennedy was doing big things against the mob, as he should be. And so that was causing a problem as well. So there's a whole bunch of possible things like Cuba, Russia, the mob. But the biggest one is the CIA. And when you look at all the things that were covered up, because you wonder, why are you covering it up? You know, if it was Lee Harvey Oswald, why not just release all of the stuff? Why save it for 50 years? Because it's not Lee Harvey Oswald. And you even see right before he's shot, he goes, or right before when he was caught, he said, I'm just a patsy. And he was. And he's clearly named in the CIA documents to be just that I'm reading. I know. Can you believe all of it? Is it propaganda? Yada, yada, yada. But when I watch with my own two eyes and I see the shooting and the way the president's head goes back and over, and then you look at the autopsy photos where it's the back of his head is what has the biggest portion off, and a little hole up here in the temple. So I went into research like gun ballistics, shooting ballistics. And the entry wound is always smaller than the exit wound. So he could not have been shot. In his autopsy actual photos, little hole here, big gapping thing here. And you even see it in the videos. That shot had to come from the front side, which is the grassy knoll. Then on YouTube, I found this guy who's mentioned in the books that I'm reading. And there were apparently 6 shooters. But this guy was named. And so I went on YouTube and I found a video of him. And he says he's in jail right now for something, I don't know, for life. He's got nothing to lose. And he admits and tells the whole story, how he was the guy in the grassy knoll. The other one is the Roscoe White, and his son Ricky White found a locker in their grandmother's attic or whatever. It had all of the paperwork, the whole thing that happened with Kennedy, proving that it was like 6 different people involved at Dealey Plaza Station specifically. But anyway, I did watch the interview. It was like an hour and a half on YouTube of this guy who said that he was the shooter in the grassy knoll. And he is so convincing. He knows, like, everything makes sense, what he's saying. Everything. For so long, I feel like I've been trying to put this puzzle together, and none of it really fits quite right. You know, Lee Harvey Oswald, 6th floor of the book depository, fired only 3 shots. One of the bullets was magic and hit the governor in front. What was it? Hit Kennedy in the back. Then it went through the governor's shoulder, then through the governor's wrist, then through the governor's thigh. And then the whole thing of why? Why? None of it made sense until I've been reading these books, reading and looking at the new information that came out that they released in 2017. They're going to release more. What makes sense, like perfectly, and the puzzle pieces fit together, CIA wanted him out. Anyway, so after looking at the x-rays, the photos, the videos, reading the books, looking at the crime scene, that's what I think. I don't think Lee Harvey Oswald got a shot off. And judging by the witnesses there too that said, no, the sound came from the grassy knoll. Others said, no, there were 6 shots fired. What's really scary is a lot of people that had like evidence, film, that came out and talked about this stuff, they died really weird deaths. All of them kind of all at once. Like a couple of them were shot in the head, and they were said that it was suicide. A couple of them had heart attacks. A couple of them had car accidents. They're just not around to tell the story. And the people that are don't want to be seen or known, but they'll comment off record because they've been warned. They've gotten phone calls, face-to-face meetings saying, if you want to live, be quiet. So the only thing I think of that we would want to cover up so aggressively is our own government. I don't know what to think, you guys. I'm not saying it is what it is, but I'm just saying. So what do you think? Do you think it was just Lee Harvey Oswald? Do you think that it was more than one shooter? Do you think a shot came from the grassy knoll? And who do you think did it? If it isn't Lee Harvey Oswald. Okay, Sister Kathleen, this is all your fault. Well, I've been tormented. And I remember she told us, because we were like, well, when are we going to see all this? When are we going to ever know? And she said, well, they said in 1963 or 64 they said that they'll release all of the information in 50 years. And I remember sitting at my desk in 6th grade going, 50 years? I'll be so old. And here I am. And Sister Kathleen, I'm still wondering how it all went down. If you're watching this, please respond. Okay. Love you guys. Bye.